Welcome back to the Warrior Mindset Podcast. I'm Anthony. I'm your host. And today we're going to be breaking down some of the biggest myths in fitness. You've probably heard all these, such as no pain, no gain, carbs make you fat, you have to train every single day, and supplements will fix everything. these these myths are everywhere. In the gym, on social media, in conversations with friends. And the problem is that they don't just confuse people, they hold people back. They also cause burnout, injury, and wasted time chasing the wrong things. So, for today's episode, I want to walk through each one of these myths, explain why they're wrong, what the science actually says, and more importantly, how can you avoid falling for them? Now, you've heard it 1,000 times. No pain, no gain. On the surface, sounds pretty motivating. I mean, doesn't it? But there's a problem with that. Pain and discomfort are not the same thing. And also, by the way, the links to the research articles and so forth will be in the description. But discomfort is the part of growth. That muscle burn that you feel in the last reps of a set, that heavy breathing during a sprint, or that fatigue from pushing hard, that's your body adapting. Pain, however, on the other hand, is your body sending you out red flags. Sharp joint pain, sudden stabs, aches that don't go away. Those are not signs of toughness. They're signs of damage. You're causing literal damage at that point. And that's when you need to stop. Sports medicine research shows that ignoring pain is one of the top causes of overuse injuries. And injuries don't just set you back a few days, they can erase months and months of progress. The warrior mindset isn't about ignoring pain, it's about knowing the difference between the discomfort that makes you stronger and the pain that breaks you down. The real mantra isn't no pain, no gain. It's no consistency, no gain. So when we look at no pain, no gain, we've really got to be consistent with how we do our exercises and get to the point of discomfort and feeling that burn, but not getting to the point of pain. Once you get there, if you hurt yourself, take it from me, everything that you worked for the past 3 or 4 months is gone because you just put yourself out of the game. I had a personal instructor one time, really just like hard, tough, push, 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 push. And I ended up hurting my knee. And that instance of hurting my knee took me out for about 4 months. And all those gains that I gained in those months before that were gone. And then number two, by the time the 4 months was over, I didn't really have any motivation to go back to the gym or to do any kind of exercise. It wasn't until like a year later that I got really motivated again to go back and get into the gym. So understand that you really want to pay attention to those signs, and you really want to make sure that you're not hurting yourself. You're not overweighting yourself. You're not trying to show off. You're not trying to do these things that are going to set you back in the long run. Myth 2. Carbs make you fat. This one seems to refuse to die. For decades, people have blamed carbs for weight gain. And sure, cut carbs, the scale drops fast. But that's mostly water weight, not fat. So here's how it works. And I'm sure a lot of you know this already, but for the ones that don't, carbs are stored in your muscles and liver as glycogen. For every gram of glycogen that you hold, there's about 3 grams of water. You cut carbs, you lose glycogen and water, and that scale goes down. But that doesn't mean you lose fat. Now, let's talk about how your body uses fuels. There's 3 main ways. Number 1, there's the ATP-PC system. That's your immediate explosive energy. It runs off of stored ATP and creatine phosphate and lasts roughly about 10 seconds. Think about sprinting or max reps. That's when that system kicks in. And then you have the glycolytic system. It runs on glycogen or carbs. It fuels about 30 seconds to 2 minutes of intense workout. This is kind of your go-to for lifting, intervals, or high intensity training. And once all of that stuff runs out, you go on to the third way your body fuels. And that's the oxidative system. Your fat burning engine. It runs on fat and oxygen, giving you long-term energy for endurance like marathons and stuff like that, or daily living. But it's slower. So, people may ask, if the goal is to lose fat, shouldn't we turn to fat burn instead? And also, I want to add to that, with the oxidative system, you can also start burning your muscle. I might get into that in another little more in depth, because I do feel like carbs needs to be explained a little bit more, but we'll get into that another time. So, like I said again, if the goal is to lose fat, shouldn't we burn fat instead of carbs? That's a good question, and I'm sure everybody asks that. The truth is, though, fat loss isn't about which fuel source that you burn during your workout. It's about your overall calorie balance over time. Low intensity cardio burns a higher percentage of fat during the session, but burns fewer total calories. High intensity training burns more carbs during the session, but can increase calorie burn after the workout. Goes the same with lifting. Lifting, you burn more calories after you're done than while you're doing the lifting. But we'll get into that one too as well. That'll be another podcast that we do. So anyway, low intensity cardio, like I said, burns higher percentage of fat during the session. But the high intensity training burns more carbs during the session. but can increase calorie burn after the workout and drive more total fat loss in the long run. So let's clear this up. Not all carbs are, of course, created equal. You have good carbs and you have bad carbs. Good carbs are things like oats, rice, potatoes, fruits, beans, vegetables, things that are high in fiber, vitamins, minerals, and steady energy. They digest slower and keep you full longer. And then you have your bad carbs, things that everybody likes to eat and drink: soda, candy, pastries. They're low in nutrition and they spike your blood sugar and then leave you crashing, craving more. So, bottom line is, and like I said, we'll go into carbs a little bit more in depth because I think this is a big issue in today's fitness world, and it always has been. Um, but carbs don't make you fat. Eating more calories than you burn makes you fat. I'll read that again. Eating more calories than you burn makes you fat. Therefore, a calorie deficit will allow you to lose weight. Carbs, especially the right ones, are actually fuel for better training, faster recovery, and higher performance, which all make fat loss easier. And that's the thing. You have to have carbs to fuel. Now, when I say that, we go back to the good carbs and the bad carbs thing. You need to pick and choose the amount of good carbs that you put into your body so you will have that fuel. But anyway, like I said, we'll go into that a little bit more. On to the next myth. Number 3, you have to train every day. This is another dangerous one. Social media loves the no days off mentality. Looks hardcore, but it's terrible advice. And here's why. Training is stress. Every workout breaks down muscle fibers. The growth and strength gains happen during recovery. When your muscle fibers repair themselves, they repair themselves stronger. So if you're not letting yourself get the adequate amount of recovery, then basically all you're doing is just repeatedly tearing those muscle fibers, which leads back to, kind of the no pain, no gain thing, you're just damaging your muscles. If you skip recovery, you don't get any stronger. You just go deeper into fatigue. Even elite athletes schedule rest and recovery into their workout plans. They know that the body can't perform 100% every day. So for most people, 3 to 5 solid workouts per week with active recovery in between them is more than enough. So to reiterate, if you do not have the recovery period, then your muscles do not have the chance to repair themselves stronger. Because discipline isn't about never resting. Discipline is more about training smart, respecting recovery, and coming back stronger. On to myth 4. And like I said, we will go into more depth with these with different podcasts. This is just kind of an introduction to the myths. Number 4, supplements will fix everything. I know you've heard that one. Or if you've not actually heard that phrase, you've heard people that talk that or that think that way. The supplement industry is worth billions. And of course, it thrives by selling the ideal that powders and pills will fix all your problems. But the truth is, supplements are just that, a supplement. Protein powder is convenient, but it's not magic. Creatine is one of the most studied and reliable supplements for strength and recovery. Caffeine boosts focus and energy. They're useful tools, protein powder being one. If you're not getting enough protein in your diet, then that helps with getting extra protein. It helps with recovery after a workout. It helps those muscles recover. Same thing with creatine. They're useful tools, but they're not the end all to be all. And this is another big one, like carbs, that there really has to be a more in depth jump in, and we'll get to it. But things like fat burners, detox teas, miracle blends, it's all hype and marketing. If they work the way that they promise, then everybody would be shredded. Everybody would, be, they wouldn't be fat anymore. So, supplements can work and help, but first you have to build a foundation of solid nutrition, consistent training, quality sleep, and then the supplements can fill those gaps. So, again, like I said, I'm going to be real with you guys. Um, I'm going to be real with you guys. Um, I want to get a little bit more in depth with these things because I would actually like to get to an hour type podcast with these um, different categories, these different myths. Um, like I said, this was just really an introduction to these. Uh, so we'll end it with this: progress doesn't come from extremes or quick fixes, it comes from smart training, smart planning, knowing your body, knowing what you can and can't do, and working your way up to what you can't or what you couldn't do. Balanced nutrition, recovery, and just staying consistent. And that's where the discipline comes in. That's where it comes in. And if you can do that, then you can hit your goals every time. It doesn't matter who you are, what you do, how big you think you are, or how small you think you are. You will get results. Now, will they be, you know, crazy whatever gains? I don't know because some of that's based on your genetics and so forth. But, that's again another topic. But the key here is to stay disciplined, stay in that mindset, and not fall for any of these myths. And you will see progress. That being said, if you got any value out of this episode, hit subscribe and share it with someone who is still chasing these myths because there's a lot of people out there that still are. I see it day and day and day. People doing these fad diets and stuff. I mean, come on. All you have to do is have a calorie deficit and make sure that you have good nutrition and you're getting the right quantities of daily vitamins and minerals that you need. That's it. It's simple. It's not rocket science. Anyway, this has been the Warrior Mindset Podcast, where strength is built with knowledge and discipline. And as always, train smart, stay disciplined, and I'll see you in the next one.